I want to talk about what is needed in order to clean up your graphic design file before you have Fireworks create the HTML and CSS for you. The one layer that you don't have to worry about modifying in terms of its own name is the web layer, and that layer needs to remain that same name. That is the layer that contains the slice files that will be added to this particular file. So the web layer is a layer that is always on top. It's created by Fireworks, and we can modify slices within it, but we cannot change this particular name. So I do need to change the name of the other layers, but the web layer is an exception to that rule. Fireworks takes care of that name for me. I have found that this is an important part of the process in order to get the correct results in your HTML and CSS file. So let's take a look at this graphic design called Layered Design Start. And what I want to do is check out this layers area, take a look at how it's set up, and clean things up. So I'll open up the very first layer, and you can see whether I have the eye on or not. There's nothing within my graphic design. And if I go to open this layer, there's nothing in it. This is the layer that Fireworks puts slices into. So that has no impact on my specific graphic design. So I'll close that up. I don't have to worry about that one, at least not at this point. Let me go into the navigation area. Now you can see my navigation has a few names in it, and that's only because those are my text pieces. But what I would want to do is come into this area, and this rectangle, well, that is not descriptive at all. So I'm going to name that navbar instead by double-clicking the name and just type in navbar. Now these are all uppercase. At this point, I wouldn't worry about that piece. These will all become a part of slices when I move to export this, so I will end up giving some of them a different name. But I certainly don't want a name of rectangle within my layers panel. The next piece is my header area. Now, my navigation actually falls below my header on the page. So here's my header. Here's my navbar. So I think it's helpful to move these layers, provided it doesn't affect the look of the page at all. So I have my header, which is basically the top item on the page, then my navigation, then my upper content area, which is this box right here, this cream-colored box and everything inside of it. So the idea of what I want to do is just go through the layers, clean them up. My header just says bitmap. Let me have this say logo, because technically that's all a part of my logo. So even though you have to pay attention or should pay attention to your layer names when you're creating the design, you want to make sure this is nicely organized, a bit more than just a graphic file when you go to export this. Now you can see my upper content area. There's my bitmap. It's my Budapest image. So I'm going to give that a name. Now if I had any extra layers within this area, I would want to delete them. Any that are not specifically showing, just delete. I'm using each one of these in terms of text. So that's my upper text box, this outer box right here. Upper content, that is a gradient that's resting on my box, and it's this box right here. And the upper content layer is actually a gradient that's showing up in my text area. If I turn it off, you can see that that entire box disappears. So what I want to do is just make sure I keep a nice clean design copy of only the files I want with good names, So this one here could even be called, instead of upper content area, or just having the text in there, I'll say upper header. So even if you don't believe that the particular layer is important in terms of a name, always make sure to go in and clean this area up. Now I have this information listed here. Here's my Tahiti photo. Usually you don't want spaces in these layer names either. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of the word photo within this area. Notice my lower right and lower left don't have spaces in them. This is my left header, so I'm going to name it left header with no space. My news and events is the right header, so I will adjust that accordingly also. So I'm literally just going through each layer, removing any extra content, and I didn't happen to have any. I had cleaned this up as I created the design, but it's always good to go through and do a thorough test of all of that before you decide to start your export process. So that is simply looking at the ping, trying to clean up all the aspects of the ping and only include the design aspects that you ultimately want in your final web page. So you may want to create a new copy, which is what this one is, of my original design, because in a graphic design, quite often you want to keep those old layers that you're not using and have an original of all of the layers from that original file. But the actual ping file you use for the export process should be nicely cleaned up, such as this one. Now these three do have spaces in the names, so I will fix that as well. This one is going to be upper content. This one's going to be lower content, so no spaces in my names. There's nothing allowed with spaces within the website of things, so I'm going to take care of it here so that I have no problems when I get to the website of things with any of these names having spaces. So that's an overview of how you want to start looking at your design prior to actually performing the conversion process. What we want to do is make this process as easy as possible for Fireworks to do and perform. And cleaning up your layers has a big impact on how well your conversion process goes. It also makes sure that Fireworks understands everything in your layers area is necessary in the final HTML page. So that's cleaning up your ping prior to starting the conversion process.